Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Prairie Remembrance. Today we are discussing Soperville, Illinois, which is a old Swedish settlement that is north of Galesburg, Illinois in Knox County. If you're interested in learning about it, stay tuned. 15 minutes north of Galesburg, precisely Lake Story, there is a old cemetery that is nestled within a forest. The cemetery is on the west bank along a country road, and it's called Soperville Cemetery. It holds 16 memorials, and today it is in complete disarray. Broken trees have fallen on top of some headstones. Some headstones are stacked against one another. Foundations have been broken. Some headstones are probably broken as well. There are only really 2 headstones that are still standing there today. This piqued my interest, and I wanted to know more about the area and who these individuals were. So, thus begins my research. Before any European settlers settled this area, these lands belonged to the Native American groups such as the Potawatomi and the Meskwaki. These tribes eventually were pushed out because of the defeat of Black Hawk. The first permanent settlers arrived in February of the year 1828, when brothers Daniel and Alexander Robertson, accompanied by Richard Matthews, established homes in Henderson Grove. Soperville was centered on rapid farm and homesteads by 1830s, which were basic farms operational for producing corn, vegetables, and constructions for farm animals. The settlement originally got its name from George Soper, who also went by George Squire. This land initially served as an undistinguished spot before attracting immigrants, particularly from Sweden, in the mid-1800s. Soperville had ties to the Underground Railroad, as of most of Knox County did in the 1840s. Soperville would endure significant challenges, including malaria outbreaks stemming from stagnant waters from nearby swamps. These hardships proved tough winters that were mentioned from many pioneers. Largely fueled by the expansion of Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad, the establishment of a post office solidified its status. Schoolhouses were also built in 1860, a church in 1872. By the 20th century approaching, Soperville's growth stagnated amid broader rural depopulation trends in Illinois as younger residents moved to more urban centers for work or opportunities. By 1900, there was only 300 residents. With Galesburg, Monmouth, the Quad Cities, and Peoria growing nearby, Soperville's farming population was decreasing. Soperville's civilians did go into the mining industry, with one such family, the Pendergasts, who arrived in Knox County in 1855, being a large contributor to coal mining in the area. Today, Soperville is mostly quiet, with farmland stretching along its borders and farmers who tend the area. For the individuals who are buried in the cemetery, I wanted to know if I could find anything, obituaries, small little captions, anything would have worked. And this is what I found. George Armstrong was born March 26th of 1862, and he lived until August 2nd of 1905. He was 44 years of age, and he died of a 4-month-long illness, and I couldn't find a headstone. Thomas Armstrong, he was born in Durham County, England on February 6, 1878. He came to America and worked in the mines of Marion, Illinois. On August 10, 1910, he came to Soperville and he married Mrs. Eliza A. Taylor on February 23, 1911. He was an employee of the Milan coal mine in Knox County. just across the line of Warren County near Coldbrook Church. He died in the Galesburg Hospital, resulting in a mining accident. He was suffering from a deep scalp wound and a hemorrhage of the lungs. An operation was attempted, but a second hemorrhage of the lungs started. This caused blood to clot in his throat and lungs, and he was strangled to death. And this came around at the time of 8:00 p.m. Fritz Carlson was born March 29th in 1883 in Knox County, Illinois. He died 1904 at the age of 20. It was a Monday night at the home of his sister, Mrs. Hannah Wright, on 140th East Tompkins in Galesburg. He died of consumption, or also known as tuberculosis, and I couldn't find a headstone of Fritz. Other names that I could find from Find a Grave are Kate Casson, and she was 11 months when she passed. Catherine Tryon Casson was born 1837 to 1905, and she was only 68 years old, and I believe I found at least her name on a family headstone. George A. Casson was born 1860 to 1882, and he was only 22 years old. Len Casson, I couldn't find anything about him, but just his name. A Levi Casson, who was born October 6th, 1835, and died October 23rd of 1889, and he was only 51 from what I could find. A Emily S. Johnson, who was born in Sweden, March 1879. She unfortunately contracted tuberculosis, and she died September of 1902 at the age of 23. A Mary Nelson Johnson, who was born November 6th of 1846. She died in Moline, Illinois at the age of 69 in the year of 1916. A Peter Johnson, who was born 1830, and he was living in Soperville, showing a census in the 1870s with the Hooson family. He died on April 16th of 1897 from a short illness at the age of 67 years old. Melvin Johnson was born October in 1912, but they only made it to the age of 3 months. There is a shared headstone that belongs to the Tryon boys. The Tryon boys were sons of Louis and Harriet Tryon, and this was a Swedish family. The first boy was Arthur J. Tryon, who was born December 17th of 1881, and he died at the age of 6 on September 29th of 1888. Rowley, but I also found some documents that said Rowley, but the headstone reads Rowley. Rowley L. Tryon was born August 14th of 1879, and he died September 12th of 1888. He was 9 years old. The Tryon family lived in Henderson of Knox County, and there is a census that shows that they were farmers. I was unable to find out how these two boys perished, and it's only under assumption that these boys perished due to plague such as tuberculosis or malaria, but I could always be wrong about that. Hiram Williams was born 1847 in Wales, and he came to Soperville. He married a woman by the name of Sarah Sally Tryon, and they owned land in Henderson Township in 1860. Sarah is also buried here, and she was born in 1849, and she went by the name Sally. I couldn't find if Sally was related to the Tryon boys. I'm assuming they were, but she's not listed as a child of Louis or Harriet, so I'm assuming cousin. Sally, though, wouldn't live long. She died at the age of 27 on November 7th of 1876. Hiram remarried to Elsie Jane, having children with her, and a census from 1900 shows their status. He was a farmer. I even found his will on Ancestry.com, where he states that all of his possessions go to his wife Elsie and control of the property. He gives support and education to his children, John, Daniel, David, Eliza, Stella, Joseph, and Ellie. and he hands all ownership to Elsie. I couldn't find what was his demise, just knowing that he had poor health. His headstone, too, is lost in Soperville. I feel, though, that Soperville is a reminder of what happens when a cemetery is neglected. Nature has definitely reclaimed this area. And usually, as all means, it does in the end. But it is important to remember these individuals with whatever story that they have. They were ordinary individuals just like you and I. And even with the small information that was provided about them, it showcases what they had to do, why they were here, so on and so on. So if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. I appreciate any sort of feedback, and we will see you for the next episode of Prairie Remembrance. Have a good day.